hello and good morning and good night. This is Dave here, and I wanted to talk about the vegan agenda. So, there's two sides to every story, and every story is told by the author, and sometimes they have a bias, right? So, there's some news going around, and this isn't like something just happened, I'm just saying in general. There's some news going around that veganism is an agenda to make us sick and unhealthy and weak. And I would agree that there is an agenda out there that makes us sick, unhealthy, and weak. And that is the agenda that's being pushed by the mainstream media, the actors, actresses, the big corporations that want to profit off of your suffering. Now, one of the big corporations that does this the most is the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry, the industry that cannot be sued for certain things and is protected against a lot of lawsuits and side effects. They have real good lawyers. And now this agenda has been being pushed since the Industrial Revolution. From my knowledge, it could have been being pushed way before that. And this agenda is to get people to eat foods that are not natural, that make the body have to deal with this foreign substance or chemicals that weakens the immune system over time. It's a slow poison. It weakens the immune system over time so that we start having symptoms that we can't deal with on our own. So we look to the pharmaceutical people that say, hey, you have some pain? Well, I have something that will make it seem like you don't have pain. That pain's still there, but you're going to be not feeling it because you're going to be having this thing that affects your brain and doesn't send signals to your nervous system telling you that you have a pain response. It's going to actually kind of like make everything a little bit more easy to deal with. All the edges are going to be kind of not as sharp, and you can kind of fuzz your way through life that way. And you won't have pain, so it looks like we solved your problem. But as we know, that just puts a band-aid on the problem, and the problem gets worse over time, and you end up with bigger issues to deal with and some pain in your back. Now, to correlate this with what the people think the vegan agenda is actually really, they're pretty close to being right on. Now, the only thing is that the fact that people have been waking up and not wanting to kill animals and not wanting to harm animals, these psychopaths are pretty smart. They're not as smart as us, but they're all right. And so they decide that, hey, if people are going to start getting too smart and they're going to want to start eating fruits and vegetables and the things that make them healthy, what can we do to make it so these foods that normally would be very healthy for people are no longer healthy? Well, one of the main things is they take all the corn and the soy and the wheat and they make a GMO and they make it full of pesticides and herbicides that don't have long-term studies done on our health, but I can almost guarantee they have long-term health ramifications that are not very positive in our favor. So they start pushing low-fat diets back in the 80s and the early 90s. And now these low-fat diets, what happens when you have a low-fat diet? You have to eat a lot more of the processed food and all that crap. So when you start eating more of the processed food, and then you start having issues that come up because of this processed food. And these processed foods are the corn, wheat, and soy that's in everything. Not only do they say, let's push this on them, let's put it in everything even though they don't know it. So corn syrup, let's come up with a new name for corn syrup. Or let's call it modified cornstarch. Or let's call it all this other stuff that people won't know what it really is when they're eating it. So that is a big way to get these vegan foods into these people's systems. Now, they've been doing this for a long time, and now the correlation between the vegan agenda and it being full of processed food and makes us weak, a lot of people like to say that the vegan food is what's making people weak, but I would say that that's wrong. I would say what is actually happening is the food that's making people weak is actually the processed food. And now the vegan stuff, people are correlating. I keep saying correlating, but that's not what I mean to say. People keep putting things together that do go together, but they don't really make sense. So Vegan food is actually fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, unprocessed, whole, unrefined. And that is the food that will make you healthy. But the government had gotten smart enough to start pushing veganism as some sort of like trend that you can eat all the food that you're used to eating and you don't have to eat untasty food, when in reality your taste buds change after 2 weeks, and all the food that you thought was flavorless is going to start having flavor if you just stop eating too much salt and stuff like that. So it's not that hard to do. But so now we have all these processed meat products and this Beyond Meat, and they're pushing the monoculture foods, the foods that are processed and are using the soy, corn, or wheat. And now, nobody ever claimed that to be healthy. No vegan on earth that is educated would ever claim these things to be healthy. And that's the problem. Now we have all these uneducated people that are looking at the parts of the picture, but not the whole piece. And they're thinking that, this is an agenda, when really the agenda isn't veganism. It's not eating plants. That's not going to make you weak. The agenda is to get people from eating the meat into eating the more processed foods and the more GMO foods. And that's the real agenda. And that is happening. So the mainstream vegan movement is actually negative, in my opinion, because it's really just what's positive for the animals. So I will say that. But it's negative in the way that it's not going to make anyone healthy unless they can see through all the fake stuff and get back to nature and see like what's real about eating fruits and vegetables. Now, the other part of this conspiracy is that the government was so smart to know that people are going to start catching on. Our consciousness is going to get to a point where we're going to start wanting to eat fruits and vegetables and disregard other foods. So what they've done over the years is they get farmers that go to school and they only learn about NPK and they only learn about monoculture and they learn about some of the permaculture and other stuff. But the way that they learn to make food and to make food that's available to a mass amount of people is to use GMOs and use pesticides and not replenish the soil because that costs too much money. So now we're getting fed food that is mineral and vitamin deficient, enzyme deficient. So people are running into problems because the food is not good like it used to be. Now it goes back to the last video that I made about how important it is to grow your own food. So there is a vegan agenda out there, but it is more of a fruit and vegetable agenda to lower the quality of fruits and vegetables. Don't let people save seeds. Don't let people pass on good genetics and just keep the GMO stuff. And that is a problem that we're facing. It's not the fact that people are eating more plants that's making them sick. It's actually the fact that people are eating more GMO and processed foods, maybe without even knowing it. And that is the real agenda at hand. And they're using veganism to virtual signal people and to also divide people. So people are like, oh, I don't want to kill animals, so I'm going to eat all this processed food. And then they think they're getting healthier, but they're actually getting sicker. And that's the real agenda. So that's all that it is. There's no agenda that veganism is what's killing people. No. It is literally the food that you're eating that is not full of minerals and vitamins because it's grown in depleted soil. And then it's also the processed food that you're putting in the body that's lowering your immune system, making you have acne, and making you look like a little skinny bitch. Thank you guys for watching. Please give me your comment down below because I would love to hear it. And I don't care if you disagree because what I just said was totally the truth. And I can't prove a lot of it, but I know it's closer to the truth than a lot of the mainstream is talking about. All right, I'll see you guys soon.